Hi, my name is Owen. Today, I want to talk to you all about one of my new favorite fantasy trilogies that I just finished, the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I've been posting my reviews of those books as I finished them, and if you've watched any of them, you know how much I love them. But I think I just want to I think I've distilled it down to like 4 things about why I really love this series and why it connected with me. So if you haven't read it, take this as like a pitch as to why this series is so good. And if you have read it, just think of it as I'm gushing to you, and you could gush back to me, because I feel like the series in general and the work of Robin Hobb, obviously I'd heard of Robin Hobb, she's a legend, but I feel like I had no idea the depth and the quality of the world that she's created. And now that I've delved into this world with this first trilogy, I feel like I walked into a gold mine, because there's so many books. And yesterday I went to the bookstore, impulsively bought the Live Ship Traders trilogy. Because you know what? Robin Hobb earned my support. And I'm not going to buy the first book, see if I like it. No, I'm going to love it. So I bought all 3 of them. And I'm going to be reading those shortly. But anyway, back to the Farseer trilogy. Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, Assassin's Quest. I just finished Assassin's Quest like a week ago, and I'm still just reeling in my love for it. But I'm just going to go through the 4 main reasons why I love this series. I think I narrowed it down. The first thing is the pacing. And I think this is it's a little funny, because I think that this is the reason why a lot of people don't like this trilogy, is because of the pacing, because it's slow. It's a really slow-paced book. It's not your Cosmere, Stormlight Archive, constant big battles, action set pieces, or even really your Song of Ice and Fire. Both of those series are long books, and this trilogy is long books. But there's not a lot of, I was gonna say intrigue, but there is intrigue. It's just of a different flavor, because it's all character. This series is a character piece on Fitz and the people closest to him. And I think I said this in one of my reviews of the specific books, but it's like a slice of life fantasy novel, if that makes sense. Not that it's like, oh, it's them opening up a coffee shop, like whatever that book is that everybody likes, but it's just specifically Fitz in his day-to-day, living in a medieval castle or living in the forest and stuff like that. And it's how he experiences this world, and how someone in his position as like a bastard with political drama and stuff like that would actually be living his day-to-day life, when he's trying to get a girlfriend, when he's trying to just do his job, when he gets assigned a task. And it may sound boring, but the characters are so well done, which I'll get into a little bit more later, that it's not about the macro stuff, because there is the greater threat of like the raiders, and they're attacking the coast, and the economy's in danger. So you'd think oh, I'm going to pull up my flaming sword and charge into battle. There's a little bit of that. Don't get me wrong. It's a little bit of action, but it's not about Fitz defeating the pirate Blackbeard and then like putting his head on the pike and then the day is saved, because it's not realistic. And it's slice of life in the sense that, like, if this were to happen in real life in a magic fantasy world, I guess, this is how slow it would be in real life. And the character growth that happens is, if you want to see that character growth, it's necessary to see these small moments, because it doesn't always happen in the final battle. It's like, did you realize the things you love? No, it's a day-by-day thing, and I feel like Hobb really captured that. And that's not to say that the things that he does that are slice of life are boring. They're just not spectacles. And it's hard to explain without making it sound boring. But I promise you, if you like character pieces and you like getting really into a person's psychology, Hobb's the best writer to do it that I've seen in fantasy. That I've seen, period, in fantasy. She was the best to do it. So I really like the pacing, and this extended period of time with Fitz, because the series starts when he's like 6 years old and ends when he's like in his mid-20s. Because we spend so much detailed time with him in extended periods of length, you get to grow with him, because he starts as a literal kid with like barely any opinions. He just gets ordered around, and he gets ordered around a lot of his life. It's kind of like one of his things, but we get to grow with him and experience the frustrations that he experiences, and his views of the characters around him as he grows into an adult change, and our views of them change along with him. Like, especially a great example is Burrich. When we were first met with him, he's like a gruff, like, father figure, because Fitz is literally 6 years old, but then it just becomes like more of a mentor, and then he just becomes like a friend, because Fitz is growing and he's maturing, and he recontextualizes his relationships, and we do that alongside him, which I have not seen a fantasy series do with child characters. It just doesn't happen. And I thought I would hate a child protagonist. But in fact, I think it was the greatest thing that ever could have been done because I love Fitz, one of my favorite characters of all time. And speaking of Fitz, the entire trilogy is written in his first person perspective, which is really tight. Usually I feel like first person is reserved, or what I thought anyway, is reserved for like young adult. Like, I don't want to tell you, I don't have to imply emotions. I just want to tell you, like, I think I'm scared. That's what I thought, ignorantly. But because it's so tight, we're trapped in Fitz's brain from, like I said, when he's a kid all the way to an adult. And it's interesting because there's a thing where, like, Fitz screws up a lot. So, like, it's easy to think, like, oh, like, this guy's kind of an idiot. He's a moron. He's always making the wrong decisions. Then when you, like, take a step back, you realize you only think that because Fitz thinks that about himself. But in, like, real life, like, objectively, he's super competent and he's super smart and he's really on top of a lot of things. It's just that he's unlucky, really, is the fact of the matter. But it's just like his first person perspective. And he's so smart, he's so insightful, and he's like kind of like philosophical. And I love it. And it's not to say that we're only limited to him, because like I said in my review of Assassin's Quest, with the use of the magic system, we can still peek into the other characters and storylines that we like. And I don't know. I just felt like by the end of the series, because it's first person, because there's such a slice of life, we were living with Fitz. And in this fantasy world, we are Fitz. And I felt, it just connected me with the way that I felt all the emotions that he was feeling. I agree with all of his decisions, even when he was wrong. And then when he realized he was wrong, I was realizing how I was wrong and agreeing with him earlier. And it's just, it's so fantastically written, so fantastically nuanced that, like, it's just a great character. I don't know what to say. And the best thing about that, continuing on that, snowballing to my third point, is all of these characters are imperfect. Fitz is not like your typical, like, or I guess it wouldn't be typical because I feel like a lot of characters are imperfect these days, but he doesn't always make the right decision, and he messes up, and he lets the emotions get the best of him. And that same thing happens with almost every single character. They all make screw ups in their own way, and it's a result of their individual unique philosophies. Because not to throw a major spoiler if you haven't read it, but King Shrewd has this weak spot in his life and in his rule, and from Fitz's perspective, it's like it makes no sense why you're doing or not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But then at the very end, you just think of it, well, his personal relationships, I'm being so vague here, that's why he's doing what he's doing, for the simple reason of love. You know what I mean? And like, that sounds vague, but if you know what I'm talking about, you should know what I'm talking about. Thing that he shouldn't do or should have stopped to do it. You know what I mean? But it just makes so much sense, because of course a man like that would be limited by the love that he has. To keep being vague. You know what I mean? And it's so obvious. It's not even a spoiler. It's just human. Every of these characters are human. They don't just do the right thing because it's the right thing. They try to do the right thing, but are messed up by their own blind spots. And they're all realistic blind spots. But the thing that I like about this book is, despite every character being imperfect, this is not a story of morally gray characters. This is not a Song of Ice and Fire where everyone's kind of a little dubious. Everyone's kind of a little selfish. Absolutely not. Fitz is good, point blank. He makes mistakes. He makes things harder on himself. But other characters make things harder on him. But everybody on the good side is good, period. Everybody on the bad side is, I feel like that's a little bit harder to do, like, nuancely, because I feel like some of the villains in the Farseer trilogy are a little bit like cartoonily evil in the ways that, like, would they really be that evil? But like, they are evil. There's no middle ground. There's no like, oh, I kind of feel for him. No, good is good, bad is bad, but everybody good is imperfect, and they're gonna get kicked, and they're gonna have to get back up. You know, and it's really more of the story of like how if you're truly good, you have to persevere through constantly losing in a way. Because Fitz loses almost every single time. And even at the end, like, obviously it's like a happy ending or it's a resolved ending. But like, you could argue that like all of his failures, was it worth it? Who knows? Because it's also like, Fitz is technically the chosen one character, but like I said, he's not the one like charging into the battle and saving the day and killing the evil wizard and the curse is lifted. It's more subtle than that. And I feel like there could be an argument for like, I don't know. It's just so nuanced. But Fitz is good, and I love that about like, because I would say like sometimes grimdark fantasy can be very depressing. Because you read like a Joe Abercrombie book, you finish it and you're like, wow, like okay, everything sucks, and everybody's evil, and everyone only looks out for themselves, and wasn't a very happy ending. This is a fantasy story about good and evil, where the good is good and the evil is evil, but everyone's just realistic. And I feel like in a way, it's almost more realistic to life than grimdark. That might be a hot take, guys. Good people are good and bad people are bad in real life. But I feel like I said, the good people are more realistic because they just make mistakes. Maybe everyone is just Fitz. Everyone's a Fitz in their own way. Write that down. My fourth and final thing is the characters, and this kind of ties into the world in general. The characters are constantly acting independent of Fitz and independent of the main plot. And this kind of ties into like my shrewd comments, but it's like that for every single character, where just because Fitz is the main character, it doesn't mean everybody's acting because of his stuff. It doesn't mean everybody has their own thoughts and desires related to the main quest or related to Fitz in his dreams, which I feel like a lot of fantasy worlds have the issue of like, I feel like even Brandon Sanderson, who I love, has this issue where outside of the main plot, it's almost like everything is frozen, or everything is clearly not as important as like what the plot is. But Farseer Trilogy is, because Fitz is assassin, he's kind of on the down low. People have their own trajectories, and those things are independent of. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. So like the character I think of is Molly, who's like the main love interest of Fitz. And you'd think that like, yeah, whatever, she's the love interest, she should be obsessed with Fitz. All her decisions, like, oh, like when they have their breakup moments because Fitz did something. It's because she has her own desires and wants and needs. And a lot of times, because we're trapped in Fitz's first person perspective, you have to like think and you have to empathize with why she'd be making those decisions. And when you do, it makes perfect sense. Like a lot of people hate on Molly because she doesn't make things easy for Fitz, because Fitz has such a hard life. It's like, come on, man, cut him a break. Yeah, I agree. But also like Fitz cut Molly a break. She's going through it, right? And same thing with Verity and the decisions that he makes. Same thing with Shrewd, Ketrican. Same thing with Patience, and same thing with Chivalry, the character we never meet, who's like this arc. And it's like a bookend. The beginning with, listen, I'm just losing my mind here because if you haven't read the book, you have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. But like, Fitz is a bastard, and his dad, Prince Chivalry, it could go one or two ways. Oh, I wanted to love you, but like it's hard. Or versus like, I'm evil, and you're evil bad, and I abandoned you. We never meet him. We never really get to really, like, everybody talks about him, but he's like a shadow over this whole thing. Like apparently he was a good guy. And then the end with what Fitz has to decide. Guys, if you want to feel my excitement, you got to have read the series. And if you've read the series, please tell me that you guys agree that like the Chivalry parallels and circular things was like not like the coolest thing you ever read in your life. And really, the whole character thing, that whole character point of them working independently of Fitz, just made it feel like that this was a world that's lived in and would have continued to evolve and been interesting if Fitz and the main plot weren't happening. Which I think is a sign of just great world building and great writing, and why I think that this Lives of Traitors series, even though I don't think Fitz is in it, is going to be fantastic because it's just the world's fantastic. I could have followed any character in the Farseer trilogy, and it would have been a fantastic story. That's all I got for you guys. I'll keep you updated as I read more into Robin Hobb books. Oh boy, let me know what you guys think. And if you haven't read it, please do. It's a great time. See ya. Be sure to like and subscribe also, by the way. I'm supposed to say that. Legally, contractually obligated. See ya.